Hi everybody, my name's Jake Gamble. I am with Generations Home Care and I'm here at the Senior Center with Miss Kate Gray today to pass on a message about caregiver self-care during our period of quarantine. I recognize how difficult some of these things will be, how difficult a time this is for all of us, but wanted to try to give you as much material as I can, and hopefully it will be helpful to you and your family as we try to make it through this stretch of time here. So I'll do the best I can. Some of this is going to be stuff you've heard from me already, but obviously applying it in this particular situation is going to be a little bit different. So bear with me. We'll do the best we can, and hopefully if you have any questions, you can find a way to ask them of Kate, whether that's online or over the phone or anything like that, and I'll try to be a good resource in that way too. So I've got 7 bits of information for you, 7 pieces that I want to talk through, each one individually. They sort of link together in what I'll call a nice way, but they're, again, nothing new, nothing mind-blowing, just something that's a good reminder for you to try to practice them as much as possible in the next few weeks as we work through the period of quarantine, whenever that ends. So the very first thing that I want to mention is going to sort of encompass the 6 pieces behind it, and that's going to be setting a daily routine. Whatever you decide to do, this is going to be up to you how rigorous you want to be and how devoted to that schedule you want to be. But setting a daily routine is going to be hugely helpful for you and your family. So I'm specifically speaking to people who are caregivers, but people who have memory loss especially, they really benefit from routine and structure. There's a lot of studies that show that an anticipatory part of their brain has been affected by the disease, so the ability to modify their plans, to modify their routine. If you take them out of their normal daily structure, you tend to see the severity of the disease. And so conversely, if you allow somebody to have structure, they maintain a little bit more independence over a long period of time. That's true for most of us. We can kind of do things mindlessly a little bit if we have a routine. Our day is predictable, normal, all those types of things. So that being said, an example of a routine that can work, and we've done this in my family to some extent, and there's really, there's lots of types of people out there, but typically we fall into 2 categories around routine. One, we make a routine and we feel some weird internal desire to stick to it by the minute, and we're maybe a little bit overbearing. So I'm going to encourage that group to say, hey, it doesn't have to be a legalistic adherence to this. There's not going to be any judicial penalties for this. We're not going to throw you in prison if you don't stick to your routine. I always encourage people to try something. Throw stuff at the wall. Try it in hour-long increments, and 15-minute increments, and 3-hour blocks. Whatever you decide for your family and for your loved one, that's going to be the best thing. So that's the first group. The second group is typically people who have no routine and no structure, and the minute you start to talk about that, they really kind of buck that routine and that structure. So I'd encourage you to try to land somewhere in the middle. So here's an example. If you're, let's call you somewhat early risers, so you like to wake up around 7 o'clock in the morning. So if you wake up at 7 and you know your loved one is going to wake up at 8 a.m., that gives you a 1-hour block of time in the morning that you have just to yourself. A little bit of quiet, maybe you have a cup of coffee, cup of tea, something along those lines. And from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., that's really going to be the heavy lifting of your caregiving. You're going to have, getting ready for the day, oral care where you're brushing teeth and using mouthwash, washing faces, if showers, all of those types of things where you're getting ready for your entire day and getting your loved one ready if they require that type of assistance. So giving yourself a little bit of margin on the front end to get mentally prepared for the day is really important. So if you can do that, give yourself a little bit of time ahead of time. If you're not used to that routine, obviously don't try to make huge changes. But say 7 to 8 a.m., you've got your time, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. You're making breakfast and you're helping your loved one get ready for the day. That's going to be a 2-hour block there. At 10 a.m., I always think it's nice on the heels of difficult work, whether that's physical or mentally difficult timing, to give yourself another little break there. So maybe at 10, you set up a time to watch a show or a movie with your loved one. You have them sit down in front of the television for an hour and a half or 2 hours, something along those lines, just giving yourself a break after that morning routine. And then from there, I like to work in a little bit of exercise, maybe break the day up. In quarantine, that can be difficult. If it's nice out, like it has been the last few days, you can go for a walk around the neighborhood. It's also nice that it's not incredibly hot at that part of the day. But if you can find a block of time to work in, 45 minutes, something like that, or just moving around a little bit. If you're trapped inside and strict quarantine and/or the weather's poor, you can do some video exercise, sit and be fit. There's lots of options there. But just working on some strength, getting some energy out. And if your loved one can participate with you, that's great. Next portion of the day, you may have lunch. After lunch, you might have a nap. Again, those can be in 1 hour blocks or 2 hour blocks. And then in the afternoon, I again like to schedule in a little bit of margin for yourself. So thinking in terms of chunks of time, and you can get as specific as you'd like. If you're a really detailed person, you can get down to 15-minute increments. I think it's really helpful for people to think in 1 or 2 hour blocks of time. Those are big enough that you don't feel like you're changing from one thing to the next so quickly, and you don't feel some sense of impending pressure, but you also have the opportunity to kind of move through at your own pace, and there's a plan for the day. That plan can actually be communicated to your loved one in a meaningful way as well. So each day it can be written down if they still possess the ability to look over a schedule. You can use visual aids, pictures, things like that. And each morning you can go through that routine and say, hey, here's what we're doing today. That way the person who you're caring for knows exactly what to expect, and it's a good prep for yourself as well. So all encompassing a daily routine and a daily schedule. You may find it best to think of it in just 3 separate blocks or 4 separate blocks, where you say morning time, get ready, lunchtime, and then after lunch, rest, and then dinner. But something so that you have an idea of what to expect each day is going to help you and help the person that you're caring for. So I mentioned all of these things inside of that routine, and I want to try to break them down for you to make them part of your routine, both daily and weekly. So these are the 6 pieces that fall into that daily routine. The first one is exercise. Exercise is so important, and there are so many studies that go into exercise releasing stress, helping you feel healthier, actually helping you be healthier. So moderate physical exercise done over 30 minutes a day, 4 to 5 days a week. It doesn't have to be vigorous. It doesn't have to be high intensity. Just simple things, moving around, strengthening your legs. It's going to be really, really important. It also helps you sleep, and again, if you can include the person who requires care in that exercise, it's going to help them sleep better at night. So you have all of these benefits, but we're kind of stuck right now. If you're a member of a gym, it's very likely that your gym is closed. If you're a member of maybe a senior center where you go to participate in those activities, very likely that you're not able to go and that routine has been interrupted. So building into your daily routine at least several times a week some form of exercise and planning for that. You may have to get a little bit creative. You can talk with Kate about some of those solutions. I know that they're doing a lot of things on video. There's a lot online. If you can access YouTube, those Sit and Be Fit classes, I'm sure they still broadcast them over television networks, things like that. So finding something that works for you and your family. Again, start small. Don't think to yourself, I need to work in exercise. I'm going to schedule 1 hour of walking. You may get frustrated that you can't complete that hour, or your loved one isn't able to do that full hour of exercise. Starting, if you haven't been exercised, starting with 5 or 10-minute segments might be really, really helpful instead of jumping into the deep end right away. If you can work your way up in those things, it's usually really, really helpful. That may be 5 minutes each day for the next week, and the next week try 10 minutes each day. But something to that effect is going to help you. It's a stress reducer. It releases all these positive hormones. It's going to help you feel better. It's obviously going to improve your strength. It's going to help your loved one maintain some independence with their strength, whatever they're capable of. So if they can participate in that, if not, if you can build that when you have either help coming over or during a time period where they may not need personal or hands-on assistance from you, it's going to be really helpful. Again, the routine helps that fall in. It's easily predictable, and at this point in time, I'm going to try to squeeze in, maybe you give yourself an hour, but you're going to try to squeeze in 20 to 30 minutes of exercise during that 1 hour time block. Really, really helpful. I think it'll go a long ways towards improving mental well-being as well. Next piece, again, these are not new, so if you're rolling your eyes and you've heard me say this stuff before, or you've heard everyone say these things before, this is just a good reminder. The best you can do right now is practice exercise and then eat a healthy diet. So one of the things I talk about all the time with our staff as well as our clients is our energy levels throughout the day are almost entirely dependent upon the calories that we consume. So if you're using calories to sort of increase and decrease insulin levels, which would be your blood sugar levels, your sort of basic energy, then you're going to have these natural peaks that come really quickly after ingesting something that might be fast energy. It's what they would call a sugar rush, right? And most of us know that. We're trained when we're young to not eat sugar, and we talk about the effects of sugar, but it's really easy. And the other part is that a lot of the easy foods to come by are really quick intake calories. I've known a lot of people that eat trail mix with chocolate and raisins and these types of things, thinking like that might be a healthy snack. It's actually a really heavy density snack. It has a lot of fats in the nuts, which are really high calories. Those can be good, healthy fats, but it also has a lot of sugars that are in the raisins, they're in the chocolates, things like that. And the design is to provide you with quick energy. The reason they call it trail mix is it's quick energy while you're out hiking and doing activities. If you're eating handfuls of trail mix while you're sitting at home, then you're probably spiking your insulin levels, and you're probably also accumulating a lot of calories, which is going to cause weight gain. It's going to cause decreases in energy, all those types of things. So thinking about the calories that you're taking in. Again, being really simple with this. If you're going to eat breads and starches, try to eat multigrain breads. These types of complex carbohydrates in the evening times are really helpful. Sweet potatoes, even potatoes themselves. But taking in a healthy, consistent diet and paying attention to your energy levels. If you eat something and you feel really good for 20 minutes after you've eaten it, and then after that your energy level goes down really quickly and you plummet and you feel just exhausted or kind of gross, that means that your insulin levels are probably spiking, and you actually can train your body to need those insulin boosts. So if you have that feeling at 2 p.m. every day and you have an additional cup of coffee, or you eat 5 pieces of chocolate or 9 cookies or a sleeve of Oreos or anything to that effect, your body then goes, oh yes, this feels good, and you get your energy peaked back up, and then it starts to spike again, and around 2 p.m. each day your body starts to go, hey, I need a little bit of a pick-me-up. So pay attention to these things. I always recommend eating grains, multi-grain breads, trying to have at least 3 servings of vegetables a day. Most of us do not think about that. Fruits are a great way to take in some sugars where they don't break down as quickly. They're healthy, they have good fiber in them, so they're good for your body. 2 servings of fruits each day can be really helpful. And then lots of proteins. So trying to take in proteins throughout the day. Most of us don't eat enough protein in the morning. Most of us don't eat enough protein in the afternoon. We tend to think of proteins as an evening meal. And I would say even lean meats, things like that. If you can work in proteins, whether that's through Greek yogurt, if it's through eggs in the morning, if it's anything along those lines, really, really helpful to sustain energy levels throughout the day. It's also going to affect your mood. If you're burning 0 calories and you're self-medicating with sugar, self-medicating with coffee, all these indulgent things, then typically your mood is affected, and when you hit that decrease in your insulin levels and that decrease in energy, you're going to feel a little grumpier. So if we can keep your blood sugar levels consistent throughout the day, your mood's going to be a little more consistent, your energy level's going to be consistent, it's going to make you a better caregiver. I don't want to overwhelm you. So one of the really difficult things for people to do is, they hear that and they want to swing the pendulum back the other way and go, okay, I should never have a cookie. I think cookies are okay, but instead of eating 7 cookies, maybe just eat 1. That's really helpful to know. You don't have to cut out everything, and building in a good routine. Again, maybe you put that in your daily routine, that at 3 p.m. each day, you have a piece of chocolate, or at 3 p.m. each day, you have 2 Girl Scout cookies. Whatever it is you decide to do, that's just fine, but build that into the expectations of your day and understand that it's going to affect, every part of you, especially at this point when, we're so it's so difficult to regulate our emotions when we're encountering things we've never experienced before. Being stuck in a house for 10 weeks is very unusual. I never thought I'd be doing this in the middle of May here in Western Washington. So, fourth piece. So first, building that daily routine. That daily routine should include exercise. It should include at least somewhat of a predictable diet. And then the fourth piece there would be sleep. So this one, again, it's not new news for anybody, but if you can get 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night, it is amazing what that does for your body. I've known lots of people in my life who feel like maybe they're overachievers and they want to tell me that, oh, I get 3 hours of sleep a night, or I get 4 hours of sleep a night, and that's all I need. Well, you're defying the laws of the human being. Every biological study ever says that humans should get roughly 8 hours of sleep on average. Everybody's a little different, but there are very few outliers who can get 3 hours of sleep a night or 4 hours of sleep a night and be truly healthy. You might get 3 hours of sleep a night and feel somewhat functional, but there's a difference between surviving and actually being healthy and feeling good. And one of my desires for our caregiving community is to feel healthy, to take care of yourself so that you can continue to care for your loved one. So planning your daily routine with a bedtime and a wake-up time can be really helpful. If you're staying up really late at night, it actually gets easier to stay up late at night if you're staying up past your body's natural rhythm. And I'll give you a personal example. At about 10 o'clock, I start to feel really, really tired. If I stay up until 11:15, 11:30, my body kind of gets this second wind, and then immediately I think, oh, I could stay up for another 3 hours, and it gets much harder for me to actually fall asleep. That is increased the more time I spend looking at a screen. There's lots and lots of science behind this, lots of research-backed study. It says if you're looking at a phone screen, an iPad screen, a computer screen, or a TV screen, you suddenly don't feel as tired because of the light that's emitted by these screens. So doctors are often recommending that people take up reading. Reading produces sort of a dream state. And if you're an avid reader, great. Turn off your devices, turn off your TV, turn off the news especially. If you're watching bad news or things that frighten you, if you're watching exciting TV shows, anything like that, can trigger a release of adrenaline or cortisol, these stress hormones. They're going to keep you up and feeling anxious even later into the night. So there's a discipline to this that most of us don't consider when we just go to bed when we feel tired, because our body doesn't feel as tired as it should when we sustain it with poor diet, or we sustain it with sort of artificial energy through screens, or we stay up past those rhythms, and we again go through these kind of wild, irregular motions throughout the day, and those affect our moods, they affect our ability to provide care, they affect everything. So planning around that sleep. And again, if you're used to going to bed at 11:30, I'm not telling you to go to bed at 8 p.m. That's not my plan at all. I actually think that would be a struggle for you, and you'd end up laying in bed for 3.5, 4 hours anxiously as your body tries to wind down. But moving your bedtime back by 5 minutes, by 15 minutes, something like that, each week or each night to try to get a good night's sleep, and counting the hours that you actually sleep. If you're recognizing that the person that you love and care for is requiring you to wake up in the middle of the night with them, then know that that's going to be factored in. That if you can get 4 hours of uninterrupted sleep, that goes a lot further than 1 hour interruption, 1 hour interruption, 1 hour interruption, this sort of skipping beat so you never get into a deeper sleep state. So allowing that for yourself, recognizing that if you can get a 4-hour chunk on the first side or the back side, the front side or the back side of your loved one waking up and needing something from you, can be really, really helpful, even if you only get 2 or 3 hours on the other side of that. So planning for that as much as possible, and knowing that if they wake up 3 or 4 or 5 times a night, you're going to have to be in bed a lot longer to feel rested. So exercise, part of that routine. Diet, really important part of that routine. Sleep is a really important part of that routine. And then the next piece is privacy. Don't be ashamed of needing some space. One of the things that I've addressed in pretty much every class I've ever taught, both here at Frank Toby Jones, all over, is that the number one emotion associated with caregivers is guilt. They feel like they're not good enough caregivers. They're frustrated that they're not able to give more, or if they get angry or frustrated, all these feelings of selfishness and guilt and shame start to pile on, and it makes all of these other pieces of self-care really difficult. So don't allow those emotions to take over. If you start to think to yourself, I really need some space, I would just like some time to myself. Again, part of your daily routine, whether you build this in the morning, in the afternoon, twice a day, or once a day, is totally up to you. But allowing yourself some space, and that could simply mean, we have this notion that if you set your loved one in front of a screen, or if you leave them alone and you're not engaging them 24 hours a day, that you're doing a bad job. I don't think that's true. I especially don't think it's true when we're under government mandated quarantine. Really, really difficult for all of us to be in this enclosed space, and so giving yourself some privacy and opportunity for self-care is going to be really important. I think in that, again, paying attention to what's restful for you. If you use your privacy to just go binge on bad news or to go pay the bills and it's all stressful, you're never allowing your body to recover from the release of those hormones. You're just continuing to produce these hormones or these emotions that are negative and stressful and anxious, and so in that you start to feel more and more exhausted and run down. So this rest and privacy is going to allow you to recover in some way. Your body has to have an ability to rest and recover, and that could be watching a show, just a simple show. It could be reading a book. It could be sewing or crafting if you like to do things like that. It could be taking a nap. Fill in the blank. Obviously, we're pretty limited on those options. You can't go out and do the things that maybe you're used to doing outside of your home, but you have to get a little bit creative, and that's okay. Start to think again, pay attention to what works for you. If you go lock yourself in a room for 2.5 hours while your loved one takes a nap in the afternoon, and you watch 2.5 hours of Law and Order, of Judge Judy, or something like that, and you come out of that room and you feel groggy and sleepy and worse, maybe than you did when you went into the room, that's probably not restful. If you go into the room and you take a nap and you come out and you feel good, pay attention to how long you napped for. There's a window of time. If you nap for too long, you can come out of that feeling like even more tired than when you started, or if you nap for too short, you can be angry or something like that. So again, paying attention. I actually like to take notes. I use my phone quite a bit to take notes on things like that. I'm a big advocate of, if I'm going to try to take a nap, I usually set a timer for about 30 minutes. That's my goal. If I don't fall asleep, even if I just laid there with my eyes closed, that's okay. I feel a little more rested when I get up. I found less than 30 minutes, I start to get a little bit anxious and feel like, oh boy, if I don't fall asleep now, I'm not going to fall asleep. And then more than that, I start to feel like, boy, I could sleep for about 5 hours here in the middle of the day, and my wife will come yell at me. So I can't have either of those things. So I usually find that window works best for me. But I had to experiment with it, play around a little bit with it, and don't get down on yourself if you decide, oh, I'm going to try to watch a movie, and you come out of that feeling crummy. Well, maybe the movie's not for you, or maybe the movie's something to do once a week instead of 7 days a week. So privacy, building in some space away from your loved one where they're not asking you for anything. You can move yourself physically away, or simply just be, in a room around the corner, in a chair around the corner, just somewhere else so that you're not on, as they say. Next piece, part of that daily routine, is technology. I mentioned this with television, that we often feel a little bit guilty for putting people in front of a TV or using technology, but technology is really, really helpful. And if you're not able to use technology, so if you feel truly incapable, I actually think it could be really helpful to have an adult child, even a grandchild, come over or show you through video, any way possible for them to access technology in your home, to set things up to make it easier for you. One of the things that I find really helpful for me, so my in-laws live in Alaska. My parents, or my dad and his wife, live in Spokane. They're far from us. But if there's an evening where my wife is gone and I'm just feeling absolutely beat up and exhausted, and I don't want to turn the TV on because my kids have watched enough TV or something like that, but I don't have the energy to play with them, I'll call them on FaceTime, Google Duo, Zoom, however you decide to access that, but I'll call them on that app or that device and allow my kids to speak with their grandparents and spend time with somebody that they love. And especially right now, that's a really helpful way to feel a connection. So if your loved one is capable of that, of participating in that, then please feel free to use that technology, but also find a way to access it. There's lots and lots of ways to do that in the comfort of your home, in the privacy of your home. There's Amazon's Alexa. You can have video frames, anything that you can use, and have family members set up for you so that it's really hassle-free, simple for you to access, so that your loved one can use it, feel comfortable using it, and you can get away into that privacy for a moment. Same thing for, if you have medical concerns. Telehealth has really gained in popularity over the last few months with this quarantine and lockdown. There's people able to visit their doctors. So if you have questions for a physician, your physician can actually call you via video and be doing an exam, if you will, over this video conference, hearing you give input, hearing your loved one give input, witnessing both of you. So utilizing and leveraging technology to the best of your ability, it's going to give you a little bit of an advantage during this time. And it allow you to access resources that maybe you didn't have access to before. And one of the big pieces that I always try to remind people of is nobody expects you, if you're 90 years old, nobody expects you to be able to pick up and use an iPhone like you're 17. But if you're 90 years old, people who are 17 can set up the iPhone for you so that you can pick it up, touch it, and you be in contact with the people that you love, be able to see their faces and feel connected to the world again, as we're so isolated during this period of time. So daily routine, we have exercise, diet, sleep, privacy, technology, and then the sixth piece of that daily routine and our seventh overall piece would be help. Finding some access to help. I mentioned technology. The Alzheimer's Association has virtual support groups or online support groups where you can create an online account. You log in, and again, having somebody help you with that if you don't feel capable of that. You'll be sitting in a virtual room with other people who are giving care to someone with Alzheimer's disease or other types of dementia. I've mentioned before the value of just support. Having people around you who are going through the same things, knowing that you aren't totally alone in this encounter, this life that you're living, the care that you're giving every single day, what your loved one is going through, all really, really helpful. So being able to access that's really helpful. Additionally, asking for help from loved ones. As we move further and further down this line and we start to see phase 2 of the government plan for releasing the lockdown and the quarantine, being able to ask people, hey, keep your traffic pattern small, but saying, hey, could you come over and sit with my wife or with my husband for the next couple of hours? I just need a break. Could you do that for me on Thursday afternoon so I can count on that? Asking your adult children to come over for a few hours, or on a weekend to have your loved one go over to their house for a little while. Just giving them an opportunity and some chance to say, I need help, and allow them to fill that void or to take your hand in that process and help out. I use the phrase all the time, don't be afraid to ask for help. Whatever you need. That might be a simple break, it might be a routine break, it might be something that you can't quite put your finger on, but speaking with people about it is going to help them understand what you're going through as a caregiver. So access to those resources, using the resources available through the Senior Center. We've used lots and lots of different caregiving resources in the last few weeks for our staff to be able to continue to provide care for seniors in their homes or wherever they live, but giving you, again, a bit of a break and you being able to recognize, I need more help than I'm willing to admit that I need, and knowing that that's going to help you be a better caregiver. It's going to help you be more patient. It's going to help you be maybe a little healthier yourself, all of those things for a longer period of time. And you don't have to feel guilt about asking that. There are a lot of people out there who would love to help. I think that's really true, and so I hope that if you were to recap, you can even write down some things right now and just go, okay, I need a routine. Here's a rough idea of a schedule. I'm going to spend 15 minutes exercising. I'm going to eat these foods each day. I'm going to sleep for 7 hours. I've only been getting 5 hours. hours. I'm going to schedule in a break for myself in the afternoon when I start to feel frustrated or angry with the amount of things I have to take care of. I'm going to see if I can ask someone to help me with some technology, some ways that I can use that to either get a break or use that to help improve quality of life for both myself and the person that I'm caring for. And I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to go to external resources like the Alzheimer's Association and the Senior Center and to different organizations, agencies, whoever else. And I'm going to ask family and neighbors and church members and everybody else around me for help because I need it. So we all need a little bit of help during this time, myself included, and I hope that you're staying safe, that you're staying healthy, that you are continuing to just care for yourself. I know how much you're doing for your loved one, and that is not unnoticed. We are thinking of you and hopeful that this is all over at some point relatively soon, and we'll all make it through together. So thanks for watching. I hope it was helpful, and be well, everybody.